By now, it's evident that the past months hasn't exactly been brimming with excitement at the box office. While there have been success stories like Across the Spider-Verse, Super Mario Bros., and Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but the overall landscape of 2022 and 2023 has been dominated by a relentless stream of disappointingly generic superhero films, unnecessary remakes, and colossal failures orchestrated by Hollywood. From Dial of Destiny to Shazam 2, Elemental, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, The Flash, Peter Pan and Wendy, and The Little Mermaid. I can go on and on, but you get the point. It appears that very little is captivating audiences and compelling them to venture into movie theaters these days. However, amidst this disheartening trend, a 61-year-old individual emerges, adamantly refusing to conform to the rules of modern-day Hollywood. For some time now, Tom Cruise has been on what feels like a one-man mission to save the movies. Cruise might have saved Hollywood's ass with last year's smash hit Top Gun: Maverick. He received publicly praises for his massive success of his film. But the battle for blockbuster cinema is far from over. And what could be a more apt mission for the famously old-school CGI-averse action hero than to go up against the creative world's current bogeyman, artificial intelligence? On July 12th, 2023, Mission: Impossible – Dead Reckoning Part 1 was released by Paramount Pictures, holding fresh at 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. The critics' consensus that reads, with world-threatening stakes and epic set pieces to match that massive title, Mission: Impossible – Dead Reckoning Part 1 effortlessly raises the bar on what it is to be the epitome of popcorn entertainment, melding an unnervingly topical threat with impeccable action sequences, pleasing chemistry across its ensemble, and more than expected bouts of genuine humor. After Mission: Impossible Fallout, the idea of going up a level with MI film series seemed like an impossible bar to reach. But that's the point of Tom Cruise. He accepts the challenge. He has to do it because if he doesn't, then nobody will. It's that kind of bold and daring approach to creating cinematic entertainment that everyone needs, especially now in world of modern movies. A couple of weeks ago, we saw the abysmal Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny provided a depressing overview of everything wrong with modern blockbusters. Cruise's saving the movie spirit goes hand in hand with his self-styled reputation as the last of the great Hollywood stars. In this seventh Mission: Impossible movie, the now 61-year-old actor and producer still insists on risking life and limb for our viewing pleasure, doing his own outrageous stunts and action scenes that make only minimal use of CGI. It's helpful, and sadly rare, for any series when the right performers and right filmmakers get hooked up together with the right material. Cruise and McQuarrie are a franchise match made in heaven, and theirs is the definitive incarnation of Mission: Impossible. With Dead Reckoning, Part 1, they begin the final story for Ethan Hunt's MI film series. This is the 7th installment in the nearly 30-year-old series, running, jumping, and tumbling as only he can. The 61-year-old leading man throws himself into the mission with the sort of energy that audiences have come to admire. Mark him as an analog hero in a world of digital superheroes. With superhero movies bombing and legacy franchises on the wane, it's once again falling to the veteran star to lead audiences, like some perms-grinning Pied Piper, back to the cinema. Tom Cruise's ambitious Dead Reckoning and the next film on this list is very close, and it's easy to argue they're ranking the other way around. There's a mix of soaring highs and frustrating lows here, with a story that essentially takes the character of Solomon Lane in Rogue Nation, who could manipulate circumstances to maneuver Hunt into whatever outcome he desired. The plot, however, is not the film's strongest aspect. The villain this time around is not a menacing Philip Seymour Hoffman under a mask, or a fist-pumping Henry Cavill, and you would think the film is less interesting in tangling with its AI algorithmic villain than it is in delivering a traditional action movie, one that frequently resembles a 90s hacker thriller. But if you think about it, we now live in a world where the focus on AI, along with concerns about fake news, online censorship, and unreliable fact-checking is growing. The notion of a formidable adversary capable of manipulating history and public perception doesn't appear as far-fetched as it might have seemed a decade ago, so the idea actually works. They were able to make it work better than what we've seen in the past in the dying world of the human race against AI machines. The AI here is not like anything we have seen in the past. It's not trying to end the human race, it's aware of what it's capable of, and it doesn't want to be controlled by any organization or by anyone. It manages to do everything to throw Ethan off his game, along with all the mobs that want to gain control over it. Join me in this spoiler-free review. So the movie kicks off with the Russian submarine being sunk during an underwater skirmish in what might be an imaginary game of battleship. Torpedoes are launched by both vessels and makes an impact. What emerges from this incident is the film's MacGuffin, a special key that is comprised of two parts that need to be interlocked to access the entity, which has the capability to overtake the world intelligence networks and weaponize them. It can wipe out data systems, control the flow of information, and bring nations to their knees. An invisible menace, everywhere and nowhere all at once, capable of manipulating the reality we perceive through all of our screens. So obviously, this key should not fall into the wrong hands. Mr. Hunt receives his usual mysterious directives that self-destruct after 5 seconds. And we all know our hero doesn't often wait for orders to follow, especially now that the planet is endangered by the sinister whims of a sentient artificial intelligence program known only as the Entity. His mission is to recover the 2 keys, but he believes that it's likely preferable to find the keys and destroy the Entity. So he takes half of the key, becomes a renegade, and initiates his own mission. The golden keys that everyone is chasing after have source code to access the Entity, and it turns out that the submarine attack was orchestrated by the Entity itself. It has become so advanced that it has developed self-awareness and stopped obeying commands, and now it's acting in its own interests. The only way to stop it is to find both halves of the key and use it to access the system core on the sunken submarine. The CIA want to regain control of the Entity so that they can exploit its power. The planet's only hope is a bunch of late middle-aged men armed with their analog wits, daredevil stunt skills, and a suitcase full of rubber masks. The Entity is able to predict their actions and decisions before they even make them. So it has hired international mobs. Grace and amongst them are some ruthless terrorists working on behalf of the Entity with dreams of taking over the entire world. And so begins an overlong game of 3-card Monte as the keys are snatched up and pocketed and stolen, step and repeat, by various players from familiar faces including Ilsa Faust and the White Widow, to series newcomers Gabriel and Grace. And no, Grace is not the new Ethan. This is not Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny or She-Hulk Attorney at Law or Disney Marvel. They have a past that is shown briefly in flashbacks that provides a little context. Grace is a pickpocket and genius thief. She is easily the second lead of Dead Reckoning, shouldering multiple action scenes and even a couple emotional ones with Tom. It's a very substantial, well-performed role that also could get a little annoying with her constant need to subvert Ethan's plans. But Haley, as the fumbling but conniving Grace, is just as much a treat to watch as Tom himself. And then there's the most memorable villain proves to be a Harley Quinn-esque agent of chaos, Paris, who races after Ethan in a Hummer. She's played by Guardians of the Galaxy star Pom Klementieff in a menacing, almost silent movie performance that might be the most memorable of the film. Seeing Pom in a completely opposite role from Mantis is fun. Even though she looks like a knockoff of Harley Quinn, she did fit the role. She's wild and hell-bent during the Rome chase scene, chasing Ethan and Grace. She's enjoying the hell out of the mayhem and chaos going on. The car chase in a tiny yellow Fiat through the streets of Rome, complicated by Hunt and Grace being handcuffed to one another, is one of the great moments in the film, filled with comedy and action all at once. The film continues to try to have it both ways, and somehow managing to pull it off, Hunt spending much of the movie's third act on the sidelines, and even playing some of his most daring escapades for laughs. Not that the actor doesn't take his mission seriously. I don't know if Tom Cruise can save the movies, but somehow I never get tired of watching him try. As a series increasingly concerned with aging men and movie stars, fighting for relevance in a rapidly changing world, it remains a curious one and, it has to be said, still a pretty good time at the movies. This franchise is the movie embodiment of aged fine wine. Going into the cinema knowing that Cruise, certified loon, is ready and willing to put himself on the line in the name of a good movie. That's his mission, and he's chosen to accept it. The stunts aren't a snoring CGI fest with shots flurried together so quickly they hope you won't see the joins. Tom Cruise keeps hitting home runs and sending the message he hears what audiences want, and he's more than happy and capable of delivering it. Then audiences keep showing up. It's when studios and storytellers and franchises forget what people loved about their work, and when they start letting other considerations dominate their decisions as artists, then the films start to suffer, and the audiences start to turn away. As usual, you come for the action, but you stay for the committed and rich performances. And as for Tom, he will do anything, jump off anything, crash into anything, for your viewing pleasure, to ensure you have the greatest time at the movies that you deserve. After last year's brilliant Top Gun Maverick, it won't be a stretch to call him the true king of summer blockbusters. Cruise performing his own death-defying exploits. Each film since has had centerpieces. Ghost Protocol's Burj Khalifa climb, hanging off an Airbus A400M in Rogue Nation, and the Halo jump in Fallout. Dead Reckoning Part 1 follows this tradition, with Cruise riding a motorbike off the side of a cliff for the film's big marketing moment. It is as incredible as it seems on the poster. There's just not much in other action films that captures the immediacy and organic thrill of watching this 61-year-old man throw any good sense of caution to the wind in the name of an authentic experience at the movies. A truly incredible amount of work went into that few moments of footage and is perhaps the only behind-the-scenes clip where the actual stunt looks scarier than what was shown in the film. Now, is this movie flawlessly perfect? Absolutely not. There's a lot of characters, double crosses, chases, fights, escapes, and explosions to keep track of. But even with a running time that pushes north of 2.5 hours, and this is just part 1, the movie never loses its grip. Dead Reckoning bombards you with one thrilling sequence after the other, and so, when moments of stillness arrive, you appreciate them too. At 163 minutes, there's so much crammed in that threatens to make Dead Reckoning Part 1 feel at once overstuffed and overfamiliar. But overall, I think it's a fantastic movie and a worthy addition to the franchise. The Part 1 was a perhaps unnecessary addition to the title, as unlike the abrupt cliffhanger endings that spoiled this summer's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Fast X, Dead Reckoning comes to a proper, fully satisfying close. It feels like a complete story has been told, leaving us dying to see what these lunatics can possibly come up with for the next chapter. This may not be sophisticated art, but it's serious artistry. Well, that concludes my presentation for today. This remarkable action film arrived precisely when needed, encompassing all the essential ingredients of the genre: heart-pounding stunts, exhilarating chase sequences, and breathtaking slow-motion shots. If you've watched it, I'm confident you had an absolute blast. And if you haven't, make sure you go witness its greatness. It is guaranteed to give you cinema entertainment you've been longing for. I hope this film serves a message to Hollywood to take notes from Tom Cruise and return to crafting exceptional movies like this, and abandon agenda-driven propaganda that's thrown our way time to time.